Oh, yeah? Well, me and the Lord, we got an understanding.
We're on a mission from God.
Time after time, I tell myself that I'm so lucky to be loving you. So lucky to be the one you run to see in the evening when the day is through. I only know what I know. The passing years will show. It kept my love so young, so near. And time after time, you'll hear me say that I'm so lucky to be loving you. The passing years will show. It kept my love so young, so near. And time after time, you hear me say that I'm so lucky to be loving you.
Uh, hey, what do you know?
Recording in progress.
Recording in progress. I
remember that one.
Did you hold your nose when you did that one?
No, but it sounds fun.
Well, that's how it sounds, right?
Yeah.
Dorraine Fisher.
Dorraine, did you send her a linkapoo?
Oh, we're just going to talk about her. No, I did, yeah.
Okay. So, I don't know her too well. How did you, or do I?
Well, we had her on the show once with Robin McCrae. Remember they were talking about doing their own show?
Oh, yeah. Now I remember. Yeah.
I wonder if I should bring that up. Because I don't see their show anywhere.
Well, Robin is off with the Sasquatch most of the time, so.
Igor once said he wants to do a show, wants us to do a show talking about glyphs and the meaning, but I don't know. I don't know if I want to do that or not.
Well, you always talk about it, but I guess he thinks he want to do a whole show. We should have him on again because you know, his last show was fabulous. It was amazing.
We need an interpreter though. We need Robin on there to interpret. He's kind of hard to understand at times. You know, the language barrier. No, you know, no.
I understood him. I mean, he was talking about these amazing things of handing Sasquatch a shot of whiskey, and his friend gets taken to the portal, and you know, ends up getting dropped back on our planet with, you know, dropped down onto the ground, and he was all sweaty because it was when he went into another dimension, he was like in another time zone or something. It was, you know, that was fantastic.
Yeah, I'd like to have him on. I'm sure we can get him on. And then he also had that telephone call conversation. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, and listen, that went further. He talked on one of these posts somewhere about how his partner, the one who's like really connected to the Sasquatch, handed the Sasquatch a walkie-talkie, and they were talking on the walkie-talkie. How fun is that? Sasquatch knew how to do it.
Yeah. Wow. Unbelievable, eh?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Wow. Absolutely unbelievable.
And I haven't got back with Sunbow yet, but I definitely want to have him on.
Sure.
And then Mike Patterson.
I actually talked to Leanne.
Leanne.
A few days ago, and she's up for it, so we'll get him on. Yeah.
Yeah. So February might be a pretty good month.
Could be.
I still want to get Ron Moorhead on. He's pretty reliable guy. One of the most reliable.
If we could get Ron Moorhead, Igor Burtsev, and what was the other guy's name again from Ontario?
Oh, Sunbow.
Oh yeah, Ron Moorhead, Igor Burtsev, Sunbow, and the guy that Leanne knows, Mike Patterson on in 1 month. Oh, that'd be a power pack month, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but then the rest of the year it'd be nothing.
Yeah, I guess we better.
However it comes, because a lot of times, you know, just because we want them doesn't mean they're going to show up.
True. Yeah, that might be. But then if the world ended, then at least we'd get them all in before that happened, right?
That's true.
This would be one of those throwback shows where we have nothing but technical difficulties. That would be nice. Kind of.
We'll do an introduction. We'll do an introduction while she warms up, and then we'll have like a Witless Prater. We'll talk about stuff.
Okay. Hey everybody. Welcome to the Pork and Beans Show, starring the world's two most and foremost ascended disasters in the known universe.
Two most or foremost.
Yeah, which one is it? Let me start that again. Hang on, guys.
I guess it's better than a four post.
Hold on. Well, foreskin would be bad. Hello, everybody. My name is Port Cunningham, and I'm here with my distinguished honorable co-host, Frank Oliver Baines, and we are the two foremost ascended disasters in the known universe. This is the Pork and Beans Show. Welcome aboard, and we've got our special guest, Dorraine Fisher, on today to talk about some really neat stuff that's of interest to me and Mr. Beans, and we're going to bring her on, and hopefully she has a microphone.
If she comes back, tell her to just hold on for a minute because Zoom is running slow and it'll take a while for it to kick in.
Well, except she can't hear us.
Oh.
I tell her.
Then they're right. This means it's going to be a good show whenever it does get going.
Oh, there she is again. Well, she's determined.
Yeah.
I guess that's why we should always do a test.
Start the show. Can you hear us now? Can you hear us? Can you hear us? Connecting to audio. Don't hear you yet. Just give it time and let the
good times roll.
Yeah, let the good times roll. No?
Don't let the good times roll. That's how we roll around here.
Can't hear it. Can't hear anything yet. Connecting to audio. It's connecting, so it takes time. Give it a few minutes. Your picture looks really good. You must have one of those.
Hold on.
What do you mean, hold on?
I think we got it.
Yeah, just like I said, just give it a little bit of time.
Hey, yeah. Hi.
Hi. Zoom is running slow, so you just gotta let it.
Okay, well, I thought I was doing something wrong, so I kept going out and coming back in. So.
Well, you did do something wrong.
So
you came on our show. That's your first mistake.
That's okay. I'm glad to be here.
But you look so good. You look so pretty.
Well, thank you.
That's hard. That's hard for him to say because he is the world's handsomest man. It's
I'm
really
so
hard.
I'm so pretty. I'm so pretty and witty and wise.
How are you guys doing?
We're doing all right.
We're doing really well. We already did the introduction, so you don't have to put up with that.
Okay, well, good. Yeah, I tried to put some notes together today, and there was so much in my head that I don't know how that's going to work, but I'll let you bounce it off of you guys, and you can.
Okay. Well, you have an idea what you're experiencing and what your messages are and all that. But why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself, how you found out that you were a little different than other people, and who are actually giving you in a nice way.
Different. What are you asking her to confess that she's different than other people?
She's not an oddball like us. She's just a little bit.
Well, you're right. I'm pretty different, but yeah. Now you're making.
Tell us about. Well, hey. See, he made it sound like I was saying
just relax and have fun, okay? That's all we're going to do today.
That's what it's all about.
We're sitting around an artificial fire, campfire, and pretending
around the campfire, join the campfire. Yeah, we're just sitting around a campfire having a discussion. So,
okay.
Yeah, how did your life change, or how did things start for you, and who are you actually in contact with? You're getting messages, right?
If it's all possible, you can ignore us and just go for it.
Well, okay. Yeah. It's hard to admit to certain things, like I'm getting messages. The first thing people think is, well, she's a nut. But
Not in this show.
I do a lot of research, and I do get some information intuitively. And what I do is I make sure it matches, basically. I get information in different ways. I am clairaudient, which means I hear things. If I turn on the radio, if there's a question in my head about something, anything, I will get an answer off of the radio, like song lyrics or
Right.
something like that. That's what being clairaudient means. And you can actually see signs, like you'd be driving down the road and there would be a big sign that has the answer to your question.
Yeah, I think a lot of us have a combination of them. Some are stronger and in a different order. With some of us, like I got a little bit of the clairaudient, but I'm more clairsentient.
Yes.
Although
yes, I'm a little bit clairsentient, but not so much.
Yeah, although I will turn on the radio and I can predict what they're going to talk about sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, stuff like that, or the song comes up that is just perfect for.
Yeah, in fact, I have had a question and I have turned on the radio to get an answer, and I will get an answer. It's the craziest thing, and I've only started to have these abilities in the last 4 or 5 years. So this is not something I have always had.
Is there something that was a catalyst for this, or it just came on?
Spiritual awakening, yeah. Spiritual journey, extreme trauma over the years, emotional trauma. I don't want to make that sound worse than it is, because there are a lot of people out there who've had worse experiences than I have. But I think any of us that end up on a spiritual journey have gone through some crap. Can I say that word? Because
the dark night hurts no matter when, no matter who you are.
We swear on our show sometimes.
Yeah.
Just because we like to hear the sound of it.
And it really distresses you sometimes. I mean, de-stresses you.
No, it doesn't. We like swearing. Oh, okay. You mean, yeah. I get you. Yeah. I'm just pulling your leg.
Yes, it's a stress reliever.
Isn't that common though? Some kind of emotional trauma or even an accident or something will be a catalyst for an awakening or something. Some kind of pain.
Yes, bad divorce, dealing with horrible people, things like that. And well, I think I probably had some abilities when I was little, when I was a child, but they developed with the trauma, I have to say. I mean, the trauma was something that kind of, like you say, was a catalyst for all of that.
The lotus and the mud.
Yes.
The lotus has to be in the mud to get the.
That's exactly right.
And after this show, you're really going to open up with the trauma that we're going to provide.
Yeah, welcome to the end of your trauma. This is like the.
You know what? I haven't worried about my trauma for a long time. I'm really trying to sort out some of my abilities, and I'm trying to sort out what's going on in the world and what I'm being called to do here. And basically, a lot of us are being called to play a role in what's happening. So
I think so.
Absolutely.
I think that I'm one of those people, and I don't want to talk like I'm special here. That it's not about that. There are many of us on this planet who are doing the very same thing.
Yeah.
And I will go into why that is. But I don't know what you guys wanted to talk about first, because we had.
Well, let's go to 4 or 5 years ago. Something you started opening up, right?
Right.
Let's give a little bit of background about how it started. So, what happened? What happened where you said, "Okay, this is different"? Or
I was in a relationship with a really horrible person who was wonderful in the beginning and turned out to be really, really awful. I mean, really, really awful. And I had
a narcissist awful, like that kind of awful.
Yeah, sociopath, narcissist, bipolar. I'm not a psychiatrist, but I think
gaslighter.
Yeah, in the worst possible way. But anyway, I I had to examine why I kept choosing bad relationships, why I kept choosing the same kind of people. And that was really the moment when I decided that I needed to straighten my act up and grow up and take responsibility for my life, what was going on in my life. And I had been doing some writing for the crypto crew about cryptozoology, Bigfoot, and all that since 2012. I'm no longer with the crypto crew, but I'm sure they'll, appreciate the plug. But I was writing all that time and doing a little bit of Bigfoot research and kind of coming to the conclusion that I had different ideas about certain things than other people did. And I think that is probably my superpower, although I really irritate a lot of people in a lot of ways, because I just don't think the same way everyone else does. And I don't see everything the same way. And I started, this was about 2013, 2014. I started acknowledging the ideas about Bigfoot that were a little bit unusual, that people were starting to report. And I think you guys both know what I'm talking about. I started giving them credence.
Just don't mention the woo or they'll kick you out of
Don't mention the woo.
That's it.
And I've got to tell you guys, and I got to tell everybody who's watching here, the woo is not going away, because you want to know what? The woo is real. It is not ever going away. You can spout your logic forever. I've tried to be a logical person, but I have learned over the years and in this last 5 years that logic really it inhibits growth a whole heck of a lot. If you're trying to stick to logic, we're not going to learn anything if we don't kind of get outside of that box. Period.
Proof is a fool's game, because anytime you come up with some kind of proof, you get attacked and jumped on.
Yeah, it doesn't work to prove anything. If you've got a good photograph, it doesn't matter. People say it's fake, so you might as well just go around talking about woo. I mean, really, seriously, you might as well, because it's just as valid. And
these guys can't even prove that their dog loves them. Yes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What are you going to do with that?
Getting to understand Sasquatch and who they really are, it starts with the woo.
It does. It does. And
otherwise you're just going after footprints and casts.
Right. Trying to get a clear picture. You're setting up game cams all over the place, and you're not getting anything except some great shots of the wildlife in your area.
Yeah.
But not Bigfoot.
And as you know, the Sasquatch are only interested in actually teaching people who want to actually learn about themselves and the universe and our connection and all that stuff. They're not interested in, entertaining people just for no reason. So these people are not really going to get anything much other than what they've got. They're not going to get outside of that box.
It was Nikola Tesla that told us that we needed to, what did he say? In order to unlock the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration.
369.
And really, I don't think people really get how profound that statement is. It really points to everything that we need to start doing, and that is stop worrying about being logical and stop worrying about finding something that we can, dissect, catalog, all that kind of stuff, and start going out there with our intuition. And I think that when people started doing that, it's been recently that people started doing that, and I mean the last 5 or 6 years, they've had better results. The problem is that they can't prove a lot of it. People do get some good pictures and they have an experience. But the problem is that experience, they can't scientifically prove it.
Yeah. Well, let me just make a point on that. They've got to get over the ego of trying to prove something, because
Yes.
It's for them, and it's for them to share to other people. And boy, am I
Right.
getting lit up with energy right now. Oh boy.
Yeah. Get out of
It
your
is-
ego or you
Yeah,
get
the
nothing.
ego is trying to prove something.
Yes.
What they have to
and-
show you may not be provable because it's energy and it's personal and that kind of stuff, but it's the real knowledge, right? So
Yeah, once I stopped going out there, trying to get pictures, trying to just find footprints and evidence, and once I just went out there and started talking to them, just, I knew they were there. I mean, there was enough evidence that they were there, but I could feel, you want to talk about clairsentient, you can feel that they're around, but you can't see them. And I basically just would start talking to them and just telling them, I know you're here and I don't have any intention of telling anybody about it. Not that it really matters because nobody can see you, but I don't have a problem with not seeing you ever. And basically it went from there. They started leaving me gifts. They started trying to connect with me. And it's just, gone from there. And I think you guys know what I'm talking about. You have a relationship with something that you may or may not see.
Yeah.
And it's a spiritual connection.
yes.
And if you don't have a spiritual bone in your body, you'll get nothing. You will get nothing. You will think Bigfoot doesn't exist, or you'll think the woo people like us are crazy.
Yeah.
So you have to go out there with a different attitude. Like you said, drop your ego and just sit with it for a while and see what happens.
So can you I want to
You're
back up
absolutely
just a
right.
bit. Tell us about how they started connecting with you and some of the gifts that they left you. Tell us about that a little bit.
Oh, shoot. Well, I wasn't planning on talking about that quite as much, but I'm sure we probably should do another show on that one.
Well, I
But
mean,
anyway.
just give us the Cliff Notes version.
Well,
For some
feathers.
reason, sex toys just went in my head.
Oh,
Okay.
dear. Anyway.
Why Sasquatch gave me a sex toy? No, I don't think so.
Are you okay now?
You got to believe in the river that you swum in. If it's woo, you got to believe it's woo.
Did I just
If
hear
it's
you
a
say?
feeling, it's a
I
feeling.
can't believe what I heard you say, Beans.
What?
I'm not even going to repeat it. An S toy? What are you talking about?
I'm gonna just let that one slide.
Yeah. I'm not even going to touch that.
Okay.
Yeah,
They
so
started
how-
leaving me subtle little gifts. Feathers in the ground. A feather on a picnic table on top was between. They had a rock stack on top of a picnic table with a feather stuck in the top of it.
Wow.
They left me, and I'd have to show you a picture of this, but I can't. I can't do it justice by talking about it, but I'll tell you about it. They put, in order to get my attention, they put a Barbie doll's head on top of a stick and stuck it in the ground. Where I would do. And I really think that was a reference to my blonde hair and my, femaleness. And it was about that time that I knew that they were communicating with me. I was in a little bit of a doubt at first. I don't know why, but I was.
I just think they were showing you, and that we see you, and this is you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Letting you know.
It was really, very profound moments for me because they had noticed me for whatever reason. Maybe there's, something in me. Maybe they recognize a soul signature or something like that. I don't know. Maybe it's just nothing, but I think that they seek people out that they know are intuitive or, at least capable of understanding. And if you're
Right.
capable of understanding, you're intuitive. But I think that they do this quite often. I think it's happening more often. And I think it will continue to happen as long as we honor them and
Right.
treat them like the humans that they are.
I like what you said about noticing stuff, because they do really, really subtle stuff because they want you to notice. They'll do big stuff, but they want you to notice little things because that's a door to really opening up.
Right.
So,
You see
when
the
you,
big
when you
things
start
very
paying attention and you start to realize what's going on. So the little things they want you to notice, right?
Exactly. And if they want you to notice, it doesn't matter if it's a big thing or a little thing, like you're saying, you will see it if you're supposed to see it. Let's put it that way.
Exactly.
I really believe that.
No question.
So yeah. But I think all of that, all of what I'm talking about here ties into the Great Awakening, which other people would say that I'm romanticizing the idea of Bigfoot, but I don't really think I am.
No.
In what I've learned over the years about them, I don't think I'm romanticizing them at all. I can tell you the exact day that the Great Awakening started, and that was October 20th, 1967, when
Wow.
Patty walked down that riverbank in full
Ooh.
view
Ooh. I
of
just
two
got-
guys in a camera.
Ooh.
Oh, I'm getting energy when you said
Yeah.
that.
That was the
I feel
day
it's-
the
it's
Great
something like
Awakening
that.
started. Now, I tell you why. Well, you know why. Because at that moment, and that film is real. We all know it's real.
Yeah.
At that moment, everybody that looked at it had to know that nothing was going to be the same, even if they weren't consciously thinking that, even if they were, not sure of what it was or what it meant. Nothing was ever going to be the same after that.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been. If some of us are old enough to remember what life was like before that happened, but nothing was going to be the same. And she really showed us that reality was not exactly what we thought it was. It was kind of the end of the ignorance in a way. And I think that probably on November 22nd, 1963, when Kennedy was assassinated, that was basically a pivotal time too. That was basically the end of the ignorance, like I say.
Or innocence.
Yeah, it was, because we all know, and I didn't live in the 50s, but we all know that the 50s was a very innocent time. Almost to the point where people just didn't have a clue about anything. God love them. That was my parents' generation, but they just couldn't handle a lot of the stuff that we're having to deal with, spiritually, emotionally, socially, everything. They have a really hard
What was
time.
going on in the 60s? You had the greatest rock and roll, and you had the stopping of a war in Vietnam, and you had
It was
riots,
a
and
time
you
of
had
great
all that
change.
kind of stuff was going on. All of that.
Mhm.
Buzzing this whole show so far, from a selfish point of view, but not really selfish. I also think the Beatles coming on Ed Sullivan was huge.
It was, yeah.
That changed
It
a
was
lot.
a lot of things.
Yes.
Nothing-
That really,
That was the beginning of the conscious rock and roll.
yeah.
Yes. There was a book that came out, was written by Vernon Linwood Howard, called The Mystic Path to Cosmic Power. People were exploring a more spiritual side of themselves. They were trying to get control of their spiritual selves, and a lot of things were going on. And that was also the time, I think it was the time, and I don't have a year handy here, but when the Fifth Dimension, the musical group, the Fifth Dimension, did the song
Dawning of the Age of Aquarius.
Age of Aquarius, yes. And people probably didn't realize how significant that was. They thought that was probably true, but maybe an event that was way down the road. Well, we are here now. We are in the Age of Aquarius. And I think that is why things are changing so dramatically in a spiritual way.
Mm-hmm.
And what has happened is we have been, speeding through the galaxy through the age of Pisces, in which the energy was that of things being hidden, dark times, dark energy, things being hidden. And as you know, that's the way the world has been all that time. Was it about 2,000 years, I believe. So now we have slipped into a different part of the galaxy where we are directly across from Sirius B, which is a very benevolent, kind, open energy. And this is why there's so much turmoil in the world right now, is because, what do I want to say? You have to tear down the old shack in order to build a castle sometimes. And that's where we are in our evolution. Everybody around me seems to be scared to death in some way. They don't think they are, but they are. There's a lot of anxiety around me. I see it on social media every day. And it really is warranted because that's what people see.
Yeah.
That's what they see in the 3D world around them. But there are better times coming, and it's going to take some time and it's going to take some effort on our part. But things are turning around.
Yeah.
And I know we don't always feel it, and don't turn on the news. You definitely won't feel it. But things are changing for the better. And what I'm really here to tell people is that you are going to have to change the way you think about things in order to evolve with it.
Right.
And that means kind of opening up your mind to some of the woo, because the non-physical world is going to become more prevalent, I believe. And I think that SASQUATCH, Bigfoot, was actually instrumental in showing us that. And I do believe, and I've said it many times over the years in my writings and everything, that people who are paranormal believers are advanced in the way they think because they are open to it, whether they were forced into it by something that happened to them doesn't matter. They are more advanced thinkers because they've been pushed to the limits as far as their thought processes. They are able to open up a little bit more.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that they're not narrow-minded sometimes like everyone else, but it's just that we all have a leg up as far as our thought processes going into.
It's not going away. You have this remote viewing that was done in I guess in the 70s and 80s. And and now it's $1 billion a year business, and that's 100% woo. You know what I mean? The stock market uses it. The mining people use it. The gold hunting people use it. You know that.
Well,
military uses it. So like woo is like right out there in the open.
They look all over for empaths. That's what they search for, is empaths. And empaths are, you know, I talk to many empaths who are really upset that they're an empath because they just absorb the energy everywhere they go, you know, and it's always negative and everything. But if you are an empath, you're a psychic and you just don't know it yet. And I don't like the word psychic so much. Intuitive would be a better word, but what they used to call a psychic. If you're an empath, you're a psychic in training, basically.
Yeah.
And they know this. And if you're empathic, you can train your intuition in various ways, and that would be one of them. But yeah. And there are a lot more people who are becoming aware that they have certain abilities. Why is that happening? Because we're slipping into the age of Aquarius. The energy here is different. The energy is more entering into the 5th dimensional timelines, where when you're in higher dimensions, and let's be real here, in order to move to another dimension, it's not a place, it's a state of consciousness. So we're perfectly capable of moving in between dimensions. It can be learned.
Yeah.
And basically, what was I saying?
I wanted to ask you, before you remember what you're saying, you're talking about the Patterson film, right? Right?
How does
I'm
it
trying
work?
to jump in before you remember what you were saying. Remember the
Yeah.
Patterson film? I mean, and to me, that was not, obviously it wasn't a coincidence. They initiated that because they are
Mhm.
teachers and they are they're trying to help us realize who we really are or whatever. So that was set up, obviously. And
Yeah.
what's your thought on that? Do you have any insight into how that went down or whatever? Or I mean, it's pretty obvious what happened, but
Well, I have knowledge of this. We
Let's
are
hear it.
being helped. We are being helped by entities that aren't from here.
Our people.
Yeah. And that's a whole nother aspect of this story. But there are agents here helping us that have been allowed to incarnate here, like volunteers. They volunteered to come here to assist us in this process. And there's another side to that story. There's a darker side to that story, but I would have to backtrack and start over. The reason why there is so much turmoil on this planet and has been for a long time, it's like we don't understand any other way. This is all we know about life on this planet. It's always been this way.
Mhm.
So we think this is kind of normal. But yeah, we think this is normal, but this was never, ever meant to be our birthright. I want people to really comprehend the idea that we were put here to do a balancing act, okay? There were some very negative beings on this planet that were creating an imbalance in the entire galaxy. And the Galactic Federation, I'll bet you've heard of them, was put together to restore balance, to maintain the balance in the universe. Because if it's out of balance, it's like anything that's out of balance. It just causes a big rift and just a lot of turmoil. And that is not what we were meant for. But with all those negative forces that were here, the Galactic Federation decided that they needed to put a bunch of us here. And we are...
Are you talking about the ambassadors, like people like you and myself and Beans and?
Just talking about starseeds.
That and just, yes.
Yeah, well, that's what I meant.
Right. And we were put here to restore the balance.
Right.
But we didn't get the job done at that point. We managed to drive these beings underground, and they didn't go away. And they've been here.
Sorry, what time period is this? Is this like in the hippie days that you're talking about flower power? Or
they say that our history goes back, what, 200,000 years?
Okay.
But I believe that we have been reset many, many, many times. I think we've been here.
It's more like 200
millions of years.
200 million years, and this is the 5th time we tried it.
It might have, yeah.
But specifically, what time period are you talking about when we failed? What are you talking about? The first time?
You know, I really
The
don't.
first time was in the land of Pan. The second time was in the land of Lemuria. The third time was in the land of Atlantis, and the fourth time
Atlantis, when Pangea broke apart. When was that? I'm not really sure.
Okay, so this has happened multiple
times. A long time ago. But we failed. We drove them underground, and their very nature is they don't have any moral compass. And they regard us as inferior. They regard us as livestock. And they're very patient. They don't care how long it takes, but they will get their revenge. And they did. These beings have spent thousands and thousands and thousands of years studying us and trying to find the best ways to control us. And they've done a pretty good job of it until now.
I would say fear is probably one of the big tools they use.
Fear is the biggest tool. Now, these beings have two really good talents that they use a lot. One is genetic manipulation. The other is mind control. And they use these pretty often, and they do it daily. The genetic manipulation, I think, is responsible for a lot of the cryptids that may be running loose on the planet. They like to play with genetics and create new little beings and turn them loose or allow them to escape or whatever. I think that may be responsible for Mothman sightings and some of the others. Sorry?
Chupacabra.
Yeah, stuff like that. You know, skinwalkers, all this stuff that people do see. They do see them. They do exist. And I think that all those sacred texts, all those old stone tablets with the depictions of crosses between people and animals, you know, where we were told that those were just myths, those were just stories, but
Minotaurs, yeah.
Yeah, I really believe that those probably exist. I mean, you don't really try to, you know, break rock and make a picture in rock unless you saw it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, if it wasn't something you saw, why would you bother putting it on a rock for mythology? I don't really think so. So I think they're responsible for a lot of that stuff. We think that those things don't exist anymore, but then people see strange cryptids all over the world. And heck, they might even be responsible for things like the Loch Ness Monster that nobody ever finds. They may be in and out of portals. You know, so they can disappear, like the same thing with Bigfoot. You know, Bigfoot just seems to disappear into thin air, you know, portals. People have made claims and taken pictures of things like portals. Who's to say it's not the same with sea monsters or anything else?
Can I ask you something quickly?
Sure.
You're talking about gene therapy and whatever, I mean, to me, isn't that what the is all about? Gene therapy, alas, I mean, that's a desperate effort by these controllers to keep us controlled, I think. Don't you? Do you see it like that?
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I try not to talk about that subject, but yeah.
Well, I didn't mention words. I just said,
That's
you know, like and that gene therapy to me is like them trying to keep the order that they've established.
And they use it in many various ways. And I think that the food supply has been contaminated for years. I mean, it seems to me that it's very strange that a lot of the problems with the food seem to sterilize people. You know, they're really big on population control. They really want to get our population under control. And they'll use any means to do it. But I really think we probably shouldn't trust the food supply.
Yeah. Well, we should try to get their population under control.
Well, that's
and out of Dodge. So who exactly, when you say who are you talking about, like reptilians or something? And I know there are good reptilians too, but who exactly are you talking about when you're referring to these beings?
Well, and I've never seen them and I've never talked to them, but the Draco are always mentioned.
Who are they?
Orion's solar system. Yes.
They're
That-
the
And
military reptilians.
reticulans, they are said to shapeshift. I don't know if that's what they actually do, but people have said they've seen them do it. I don't know. I've never witnessed that. So
Well, I mean, Sasquatch can do it, so
that's
I've had a lot of experience with that. So why couldn't
well,
they?
and I firmly believe that Sasquatch came from someplace else or is a hybrid being that's part alien,
Yeah.
extraterrestrial or something like that, because we know they have human DNA, but we say that they're from Earth because they have human DNA. Well, we're not necessarily from Earth. Okay, that's the thing. And people will argue about evolution, but our evolution doesn't seem to apply to humans. 200,000 years ago, we just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
That's the point to remember. We came out of nowhere. So how did that happen exactly? It would have taken what, maybe millions of years for us to evolve from Homo erectus to what we are now. And in the last 100 years, to have built this kind of technology, how did that happen?
Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
We've been gifted all kinds of things, and a lot of it wasn't really for our benefit.
No, mostly we've been controlled and manipulated for a very long time using the media, using our school system. Well, all the education system, our universities, but public school is just as bad. And the thing is, there is a standing rule that they cannot do anything to us without telling us first and getting our approval. Okay, so what they do about that
sounds familiar.
Yeah, what they do about that is they make movies about scenarios of what they would do to us. They present them as entertainment. And when we go watch them, pay money to go see them, we are giving them permission.
Yeah. I would also say that the news and the media, which I consider to be propaganda, is another way for them to have people give them permission, because well, that's what they're doing, right?
Right. So yeah, Hollywood is a cesspool. I am getting to the point now where I can't even watch an old movie that I used to love, because I look at these people and it just creeps me out. I don't know if it's intuition or just from knowing so much that I know. I just can't even watch these movies anymore.
So who are your guides then? Who is teaching you? Is it the Sasquatch, or is there more than that?
It's more than that. I have many. There's been many.
This goes back. Remember Shirley Temple? She was supposed to made these movies with like a rich guy and a rich old guy and Shirley Temple, and
yeah,
all that kind of stuff. Also, the thing that we've had like endless wars for like 9,000 years, right? Endless wars, war after war after war, which takes all the warrior class human men and eliminates them, and then the women get raped and plundered and children get stolen. So this has been going on a long time.
Yeah, and we've blamed the terrible humans for it. We've blamed ourselves for the terrible things that have happened, but the thing is, we've been quite corrupted and messed with, basically. We've been tampered with. I'm not saying that the humans have no fault, because, they needed to take responsibility for what they did. But basically, I don't really think humans are entirely responsible for all the terrible things that have happened over the years. I think they've had help doing these things. A lot of times they've been manipulated into doing these things. They've been forced to doing these things, had their lives threatened. And we kind of need to be mindful of that too, and kind of patient, because some people didn't have any control of themselves in some cases.
What's the connection between, because obviously, you know, so many of our world leaders are going along with this agenda, whatever. Are they in fear? Are they being blackmailed? Are they being taken over? Why is everybody, you know, why are people doing such ridiculous things that we can see? Or why are they, how is that being brought about?
I want to say that it's some kind of mind control, but there are different levels of mind control. I mean, you know, you can be turned into a robot basically, but a lot of times people can be, well, threaten their families, or they can be schooled for many years in these practices. Take, you know, Nazi Germany. A lot of these guys were educated for many years in this type of thinking, and it's been the same way here in the US. People have been schooled in, I don't want to say the word, but they've been schooled in these ideas, and they really believe that they're doing good. That's the problem, you know, population control. They think it's a very important issue that they need to face.
As long as they're not involved in it.
As long as they're not involved in it. Exactly.
You know,
and so,
I mean, if they wanted to step forward and volunteer to help the process along, then, you know, that would be something, but they're, you know.
And then
Right.
there's blackmail. There's blackmail.
there's all kinds of things.
The police, the judges, the
Yeah.
lawyers,
It runs very deep.
Politicians, it's like, you know, and what I mean by blackmail is the darkest kind of setup honeypot
Yes.
blackmail you can get.
Yeah, and I say one of the best. Yeah, and I say one of the best ways to realize what's going on is turn the freaking news off, because that's just a big propaganda machine.
Yeah, if you're watching the news, you're getting misinformation, period. And I'll tell you this, if what they're saying, just turn it around to its opposite and you'll get something closer to the truth.
Yeah.
They will almost tell the exact opposite of what's really happening. And
I mean, yeah, what a perfect storm. I mean, if you're just a guy going back and forth to work, don't have any deep kind of thoughts about consciousness or whatever, and, you know, everybody's different, and you go home and you watch the news every night.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, what better way to program and manipulate people, because people actually think that shit's real.
Yeah, and it really goes back to our parents who used to turn on the news and they could believe what was being said. I mean, news was objective back then. I'm old enough to remember when news was fairly objective. I'm sure it was a little underhanded at that time, but
They used to show the
mostly
Vietnam
trusted it.
War on the news, and guess what?
Mhm.
After the Vietnam War, there was no more news of any wars.
No.
Right. They never showed the footage. I can remember the footage of Vietnam when I was a kid, you know, every single night, this, you know, these depictions of all the stuff that was going on. But they haven't done that since.
If people think the news is objective, and I'm not picking political sides or whatever, because I think politics is a broken system.
It is.
That's not going to exist in the future like it is now. But I mean, if you want to think that the news is objective, just look at the way the last American election went down. I mean, you know, I'm not supporting anybody, but I mean,
No.
Trump was the cause cancer. I mean, he every malady known in the universe he was responsible for. It was not objective at all.
No, it wasn't.
And I'm not supporting him. I'm just saying
No, I'm not either.
That's a perfect example of you know, no objectivity in the news today. It's all brainwashing, and I mean, it's just ridiculous hearing some of these politicians. I mean, you ever hear Biden speak? He's not even in reality.
You want to talk about mind control? You know, they say there's something wrong with his brain. Well, think about that. Is there something wrong with his brain? Like somebody messing with him somehow? I mean, this is the kind of stuff that goes through my mind. And you have to understand, you know, think back to everybody that's old enough to remember suicide bombers in the Middle East.
Oh,
And they talked about how they got them to do this, you know, blow themselves up basically. And they took the most downtrodden people, miserable, depressed, anxious, downtrodden people, and messed with their heads, basically brainwashed them in certain ways. And they went out into a crowd of people and blew themselves up and everybody there. Now, translate that over to this country and a few others, but mostly this country, where all the shootings take place. The shootings are, it's almost always, not always, but almost always the same scenario where the shooter turns a gun on himself in the end. So dead men tell no tales. Don't you think it's interesting that it happens the exact same way just about every time?
Yeah, Oswald told no tales either, although he didn't turn it on himself, but yeah.
That was different. That's another day's topic.
I know, but the same kind of dead men tell no tales kind of scenario.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
Mind control.
Getting into the topic of false flags, which just from 9/11, then you did the terrorist attacks, and then there was the AIDS thing and anthrax, and then went from the terrorist attacks, which were false flags, into the school shootings, of which there's been about 2,000 school shootings. And then there was the random public shootings, and all of them were staged events. Even when they killed people for real, they were still staged.
Yeah. They were distractions too. Usually there was something else going on that they didn't want you to see. It's like, don't look over there, look over here. They want to keep your attention on something really horrifying and fearful. And
they had 7 wars going on simultaneously, so it was like there's 2 things. There was war going on every day on the news, and then there's school shootings and back and forth. It was like they were terrorizing us. The war on terror was to terrorize us.
Yeah, and people, you know, buy into it. They're scared out of their minds, wondering, well, the world's gone crazy. All these crazy people are running around. Okay, I want to tell you about those crazy people. A lot of them, now I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them are being controlled, are being created.
Well, and that brings me to a thought. What do you think of Manchurian candidates? Do you think that's a real thing where?
Oh yeah, that's MK Ultra. They say there's an MK Ultra brainwashed person in every block.
Yeah.
That's what all those kids who were shooting, you know, they would get these kids to go shoot up schools and stuff. That was MK Ultra stuff.
You know, initially, maybe, you know,
maybe not to the degree, but you know, yeah.
When it happened, oh, I'm getting it. I've had energy almost this whole show, so that's they're really liking what we're talking about. But you know, initially when it happened, I thought John Lennon was just killed by some crazy guy. But the more I think about it and what he stood for and how powerful he was for peace and stuff,
yeah, he was.
I think that he might have been a Manchurian candidate victim.
Yep, you're right. You're right. It's a very big possibility. And think of the other people who have mysteriously died, you know, over the years.
Because look at when and I don't want to get too much into it. I want to get back into your story, but like when that guy, I'm not even going to dignify by mentioning his name, killed John Lennon, he just stood there like in a trance kind of thing. And the same thing with Robert F. Kennedy, right? Like Sirhan doesn't even really remember what went down or whatever. It was almost like it was a trigger word or something. And
yeah, why do you need to build an army if you can create one, if you can mind control a bunch of people to do horrible things? You know, a lot of times they, you know, if they do live through the event, you know, it's hard to get much out of them. You know, they don't communicate very well. And sometimes they swear they don't remember the event, like you say. And I remember, I can't remember if it was on YouTube. I saw a clip of a guy who was trying to talk to Antifa guys. And they were just like cyborgs. They couldn't articulate a thought to answer a question. They were
Yeah.
just like big brutes, basically. And that's what really made me think about this whole mind control thing a lot more, because if they can't articulate an answer to a question about why they're doing what they're doing, I have to wonder what's going on there.
Yeah.
And I think some politicians are controlled in this way. And, you know, the media definitely. And like I say, there's different types of mind control. I mean, there's like, they don't know what they're doing. They're just being controlled by some outside source. Or if they've been just brainwashed to the point where they're just out of their minds and do crazy things. But it's really something that we need to start thinking about when we watch these events unfold. And I'm hoping that that's slowing down a little bit, but we really need to kind of change the way we think about everything. We just seem to think that we know what's going on. We see it and we think we know what it is, but we got to understand that we don't always know. There's a different story sometimes. And
Yeah, it's staged. A lot of it is staged just so that you have your attention on that one, like you said, whether there's something else going on or because they want you to adopt a certain belief or buy into fear or.
Yeah, they have studied us, like I said, for thousands of years and learned the perfect ways to manipulate us. They have studied our psychology and they know exactly how to get to us. And the fear is the biggest tool. Yeah. If you want to fight this war, if you want to be a warrior in this war, learn how to control your fear, get over your anxiety, because most of it is unwarranted at this point.
Listen, the Sasquatch people, when I had that big download of you know, all one, all connected, that kind of thing, and built on from there, they literally took my fear away so that I can, and you can, I'm sure, do what we have to do. I have no fear whatsoever. I'm not I've got no fear. So I can't. So
it's a great feeling
in that way that we can't be controlled, you know.
That's right. And the fear puts you into a very low vibration.
Exactly.
Which opens you up to all kinds of negativity of all kinds. So it opens you up to bad things happening to you. Vibration is another subject that's, you know, another day's topic.
I'm actually just in the midst of writing a book talking about all of that stuff. Like it's a Sasquatch book, but it's more about, you know, their message and whatever, and my personal experiences. But I was just interesting because I was just working on a chapter about boxes and thinking outside of the box and fear and, you know, control and all that. So I'll send that to you. I'll send that a little thing to the message. You might like it. But
that's great. I'm always anxious to read that kind of stuff.
But yeah, but that's what. So what have the Sasquatch people or your guides told you specifically? And you know, this is kind of a redundant question because it's probably exactly the same answer I would give. But for the for the people watching, what have they told you? What are you here to do? What do they want you to do or share?
Well, I always hesitate to talk about it because it sounds like I think I'm special, and it's not that at all.
No.
But
they
do call me, they call me the messenger. They call me the messenger, and it's my job to articulate certain things, and I'm trying to get better at it. But they think I'm okay. So
yeah.
But I'm supposed to articulate certain things to people, concepts that are, what's the word I want? Really, it started out as me articulating the idea that the paranormal might actually be normal, you know, like there's a scientific explanation for it, or, you know, something. And I think it happened then, but in the last 5 years, it's been more about just awakening to everything, not just the paranormal, but everything that's going on, waking up to all of it. And people think they're awake. Everyone I talk to thinks they're awake. But here's the thing. If you are not awake to the idea of your own power, you're not awake.
No.
A lot of people think they know what's going on, but what is actually going on is the human race is coming into their own. We are coming into our power. We're entering the fifth dimension where things are more visible. Everything is more visible. That's why there's so much turmoil. Everybody's starting to see it and they're like, what the, what the heck is this? I don't like this. And that's the attitude that's going on.
Yeah.
They're seeing it now, or they're asking questions like, what was that? So we're getting there, but what was I talking about?
You're getting a lot of comments.
Well, piggybacking off your idea, I mean, when you feel the connection to everything, yeah, ego is not really a thing. So when we talk about what we're here for or whatever, it's not an ego-based kind of answer.
Yeah, I know.
Like for me,
I'm getting used to that.
Yeah, but I mean, like for me, the Sasquatch told me you represent us everywhere you go. Now that sounds like, well, who the hell am I? But it's just how it is, right?
Because you
it's
talk
an ego
about
thing. It's just right.
Yeah, you tell people about them. So
well, I mean, I've had it in my mind speak. I've had them do it in glyphs and messages in so many ways. You represent us everywhere you go. It's not a ego thing. It's a humbling honor kind of thing.
It is.
You know, like it really. And when we're connected to everything, like the ego is right out of it. Mm-hmm. See, that's old faulty thinking of people within in boxes or whatever that think anybody who talks about that is talking from an ego-based thing, but it's not at all.
I just still have trouble with it. I don't know why.
So do I. Yeah, I don't like it. Because exactly like you said, I don't like to make myself sound like I'm special or whatever, because it makes other people feel bad. Like, well, why am I special?
Yeah, it makes some people think you're caught up in your.
I don't feel bad.
And, I'm definitely not that. I never planned for any of this to happen at all. Yeah. My life has been totally weird. I never planned for it at all. And life is what happens when you're making plans. Didn't John Lennon say that?
Yeah. Just give me some truth. Just give me some truth now.
So, anyway, where were we?
I wanted to ask you. Let me ask you one thing, and then
wait a minute. Oh, you got like 44 comments, and that's like a record for the first hour. That's outstanding.
Let me just have one more question, Beans, and then you're up.
You probably can't see them on yours, but
I can't.
Let me ask you one more, then we'll get to some questions. Why are we going? What is going to be the difference this time? We failed before. Why are we going to succeed this time? And then it's up to Beans and his questions.
Okay, first of all, we are already succeeding. I want everybody to understand that we are winning because the energies, this has been arranged for many thousands of years because the energies are perfect on this planet in the age of Aquarius. The energies are perfect to make this transition. But what is different now is before they've sent only a few agents, a few prophets to tell people what was going on. But
like Jesus and Muhammad.
Exactly. But now, that's the thing, put yourself on the same level as Jesus or something. That's another thing that, gets to me about talking about this. But there are millions of agents on the ground that have incarnated into this time frame, and I want to tell you, we are so lucky to live in the time we're living to see this happening.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So lucky. I'm excited.
When you have no fear, when you see this kind of stuff happening, it's actually exciting.
Yeah. Anyway, there are so many of us. They have just inundated the population with people who can help guide other people and answer their questions. And they all do it in different ways, and that's fine. We're all designed that way. We're from different walks of life, everything, but we're here to help people understand it. And like I say, we're not special, we're just people. We came here, we had to go through the same stuff that everybody else has to go through. We went through the same school system. We sat and believed the same news shows every day for many years, and we made all the same mistakes. We just kind of hit a turning point at some point and realized that we needed to do something different. And a lot of us, like I said, I think differently than other people. And it's my job to make people think differently about things and articulate them differently.
Yeah.
So, but there are many more of us, and that's the biggest thing. But the thing is about that is that they couldn't help us without us asking asking them to help us. That's the law. That's like the prime directive in Star Trek. You remember that?
Yeah.
Where they can't interfere.
Yeah.
Well,
Free will.
we have enough agents on the planet who are aware of this directive that can say, okay, please help us. We need help. So we are being helped.
Yep.
And I want everybody to realize that we're getting a lot of help, and it's good help. And they've been working on this for a very long time. And it's basically to restore the balance in this universe. And restoring the balance means getting rid of the negative influences from the planet.
Makes you admire Jesus so much, man. He was like a one-man army, you know? You know what I'm saying?
Really, honestly.
He did a lot. I mean, his words have been kind of changed around to fear and stuff, but I mean, still, I mean, that guy was pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And you aspire to be like that, but I think he had a lot more training than we did, although I feel like I've had plenty of training. I don't know about you. I feel like
I feel like I'm totally
but
had my head opened up. I think we all have, just a whole different understanding. And like for instance, I get downloads streaming into the top of my head, and it's constant upgrading and whatever, just so that we can understand what we're doing better or whatever.
Middle of the night that happens. The middle of the night, I feel like there's some kind of energy wave going over me. I'm like, what the heck? And then you realize
it's your cat. It's just your cat. Not just
and you tell other people about it. I don't tell anybody anything anymore, but now I've told all of you. So
well, that's the thing about the Pork and Bean Show, is that we're all on board with all of this stuff. You're not telling us anything that we don't think is far out, or it's far out, but it's like, hey, far out, man. It's that, but it's not like far out, like beyond our comprehension or what we haven't experienced.
Right. So. Well, I think about David Icke talking about the reptilians back in the early 90s or late 80s, when people could not comprehend this at all. And now everybody's like, oh, you're talking about the reptilians? I'm like, well, I didn't want to say that word, but that's what it is. So
let's see if Beans, do you have any questions, Beans? Do you want to present?
Why don't you look? I'm doing some sharing.
Okay.
You should look on there, because there's some great comments. Just some great stuff.
Well, we'll get to them in a bit. So, because let's continue on this one thing, and then I'll try to see some comments or whatever. So what's gonna happen when we come out on the other side of this? How are things going to be different? I know it'll be I know that what you said, and I believe that too. It's how we think. It's a conscious, thinking in higher dimensions. Kind of, I'm bumbling that. you know what I mean? Our thought patterns are different. We're not thinking in the lower vibrational stuff. So is it just going to be that we're just going to change because we're not going to be thinking in a higher dimensional kind of way, and things will naturally change? Or is there going to
probably organically in a lot of ways. People will probably start making more effort when they understand what they need to do, because I think people are bewildered right now, totally confused. But organically, a lot of things will change, because as we keep moving into the fifth dimension, the vibration is rising. And once the vibration of the planet rises, it makes it very uncomfortable for negativity to remain.
Yes.
That's what people don't really get, is that once we raise the vibration of this planet to a high enough level, you know, fifth dimensional timelines, the negativity will be very uncomfortable and will not be able to exist as it does right now. So that's why they've kept us in this fear state for all these years, is because it keeps our vibration low and makes it comfortable for them to be here.
Yeah.
So they have to manipulate us. They think we've stolen their planet. That's why they hate us.
If we could get into that fifth dimensional thinking, like I've been there,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm still there, kind of, actually, you know, I'm there more now than you know, it's kind of like you get introduced to it, you go back and forth kind of, but then you gradually get more and more
Mm-hmm.
in there, like, you know, consistently.
Right.
And when you're
You
in
do,
that
yeah.
state, when you're in that vibration, there is no judgment, which is terrible for the world. You know, judgment is all about separation. Judgment is all about hate. You know, so when you're, I think that's what what I know the transition will be, is when we are in that fifth dimensional state of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't hate, you can't have wars, you can't think that this is different than me. You just feel a completeness, and there's not even any questions, because you just know all the answers without even pondering the questions, kind of thing. So it's if we can evolve to that, which is what I think they want, then naturally all the other stuff has to just disappear. It can't exist in that. You know, from what I've experienced.
No fear, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
Can you imagine a world with no fear? I had anxiety problems in the past, terrible anxiety problems, to the point of physical pain. And to me, to take the fear out of the equation, and I don't have that fear anymore. I don't have that kind of fear. I don't fear much of anything anymore. But to take that fear out of the equation for everyone, a big weight is lifted, for one thing, a huge weight, because so many people suffer from the same thing. Terrible anxiety, because, you know, their heads have been filled with all this crap all these years, you know, and none of it has really been true. And the fact that people don't understand that they create their reality, which is another day's topic, that they actually, by being positive in their mindset, can actually create positive outcomes outwardly. So if you're in a negative state, if you're in a fear state, you're just creating all kinds of bad stuff for yourself. And people don't quite get that they have that kind of control over their condition. And that's what I would hope for the new age, is for people to understand that they have so much more control over everything than they think. We've been taught that we have no control over anything.
When the drugs hit you, tingling begins. Conviction postponed equals hope under the threat of separation. The shriek of a gull suspend in air, the sound of the sea. Anywhere, anywhere. When the drugs quit you, as loyal as a fruit fly, you mutter to yourself, you tunnel a spark. Good fucking luck, good fucking you in situ. Here it begins, quits you at a payphone in the snow. One night in Copenhagen, one night in Copenhagen. You know the natives fluorescent, the shriek of a gull, suspending air, the sound of the town. Anywhere, anywhere, anywhere.
We've had this toxic relationship with our government and other authority figures in which it's kind of a codependent situation where they have tried to tell us that, you know, we can't trust ourselves. We can't trust our intuition. We can only trust them to tell us what to do. And that's codependency. And we've got to break the codependency in order to move up.
Yeah.
And
even when you hear the government saying that they want to bring, or whoever's talking about it, they want to bring people together or whatever, they do it from a point of judgment.
yes,
And they're actually separating us. They're not bringing us together, because the only way that you can come together is through forgiveness. There is no forgiveness and judgment, and everything is about judgment, retribution. We're this, we're that, you did this to us, we did that to you. That does not work. That's the exact opposite of what they're talking about.
and it's a hard thing that I have to say here, and I apologize, but it has to be said. We have to start kind of, what's the word I want? We kind of have to let go a little bit of our belief systems the way they are right now in order to stop separating ourselves into groups.
Yes.
But based on belief systems.
Absolutely. 100%.
It's a really horrible condition of separation. This is another thing that they've done to us, is separate us into little tiny groups of different types, you know, different beliefs.
Nationalities, religions, colors,
Yeah,
you know, everything is we're right, you're wrong, separation, all of that stuff. And that's by design. Yes.
Yes, it is. And people need to see it. All you have to do, we're at war. Don't get me wrong here. We are at war. It's a spiritual war, but it's a war nonetheless. And all you have to do to win this war is to see what's happening and refuse to accept it. That's it.
Yeah.
There's no fighting that needs to be done. We don't need to take up arms. We don't need to do any of that stuff. All we need to do is refuse to accept what we're being told. And once we do that, it falls apart. There are many more of us than there are of them.
The lies and the manipulation start right as a child. The child's brought into the world pure and whatever. And then what do?
Yeah.
You start putting up boxes of, you can't like this. We believe in this. This guy's no good. We don't believe in this religion. We don't like that person because they're a different color. We don't like them because they believe in this.
We don't like people who believe in the woo.
None of that.
Well, it's worse when we basically, gosh, what do I want to say? I lost my train of thought. It's worse when we, I lost it.
The woo. He said something about believing the woo.
No, it was what you were talking about.
Me?
Yeah, you were talking about.
We're programmed to think that we're divided right from birth when we're actually all connected. That's our true universal self. But we are being we are being programmed right from a little kid to think that we are divided. And no wonder we have all these issues today, because that's not who we are.
And let's keep it real here. People are teaching their children from a place of where they were taught, which was this system that I'm talking about.
And they think it's good. They
They
don't
think it's
realize
good.
it.
They've been taught that it's good. So they teach their kids the same thing, and the cycle never breaks.
That's right.
We are here to break the generational cycles. This is our job right now.
Absolutely.
So
100%.
we have to learn to understand things a little bit differently. And I understand that that is very hard. It's harder for some people than it is for others. But we kind of have to open up our minds to the idea that everything might be just a little bit different than we've believed all this time. And it is a hard thing for a lot of people. I mean, you need things to hang on to. And what I'm proposing here is giving away all the things that we've hung on to for all these years, and just kind of jumping off a cliff with trusting a new paradigm. And that's not really what I'm doing. They don't expect you to jump off a cliff. Nobody does. There will be transition periods. It is understood that there are a lot of people who are having trouble with this, but it is just a small, tiny little shift in your mind at your own pace. I'm not asking you to do this overnight. I'm asking you to just open up your mind just a little tiny bit and realize that you are powerful beings and your birthright was taken away from you. And we're trying to get it back.
You know, basically, if you look at anything in
Let
the
me ask
news
a
or
question.
people are propagating about division,
Hey, this is Mr. Hoggy Hog. Let me ask a question. How does the Bigfoot fit into this big picture?
who's the Bigfoot? You mean Sasquatch?
Sasquatch. How does a Bigfoot Sasquatch?
I don't call him Bigfoot. Sorry.
I think it's
Mr. Hoggy Hog.
I think Bigfoot's an affectionate term, but how does Bigfoot fit into this?
Yeah, how does it fit in? 'Cause
Sasquatch.
You just set up this whole big
Sasquatch.
picture, and I think it's
Sasquatch
important.
started the ball rolling. Sasquatch
With the
is the one
Patterson
that-
film.
with the Patterson film. I really think that that was a really profound event that isn't given enough credit for what it actually accomplished.
All right.
It was the beginning of a new paradigm, a new time period, a new state of mind. It was the beginning of the fifth dimension, really, honestly. It's just that we weren't feeling it yet. Now we're feeling it because there's so much turmoil in the world, because people are starting to say, what the frack is going on? I don't like this. We need to change this. But they put up with so much over the years because there was so much hidden, and people were very passive because they thought everything would be taken care of. Like I said, the generation of the 50s where, you know, they thought everything was fine. And, you know, it's nothing against that generation. It's just they believed that everything was fine, that they could trust their president, that they could trust their government, that they could trust their authority figures and trust their media. Now it's the end of the innocence, and we know now that we can't. The question is, what are we going to do with that information?
Yeah. What I wanted to say is just quickly, and I'll move off that subject, is that we have to question anything that anybody is telling us about divisiveness and division, because
Right.
it's based on a lie. That's how we start turning ourselves around, is
Anything that promotes any kind of division whatsoever, like if it makes you feel superior to others.
or different or removed or yeah.
The big thing is feeling superior. We've got groups of people who think they are better than others because they have a certain belief system. And I'm not talking about anyone in particular. I'm talking about all these different groups. They identify with a group, a belief system, and they think that somehow they're better than others, and they're just not.
Anything like
If
that.
it does that, you need to reject it.
We have to examine it and realize what it is, because it's a total lie. It's not who we are.
It's not who we
And
are.
it's
It was
not that
never
hard to do. You
meant
just
be.
have to consider, just think, well, okay, wait a minute, this isn't connecting people. So I don't,
Right.
I'm going to reject that.
If it's destructive, we need to reject it. It's, that's, and we've put up with a lot of destructive stuff over the years because we think we have no power to change it. And, we think this is normal, but it's not. It was never, ever meant to be this way. We were put here in order to live good lives. Seriously, we were put here to live and be happy.
I think
That's
there
what's
will be a
going
new
on.
normal, but it's not going to be the new normal the handlers are talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? So did you
Yeah.
have a list of topics that you wanted to discuss? Because we
No.
can go anywhere you want to go.
No, we've really been covering most of
55
what I was.
messages. That's pretty good.
I'm sorry,
So we have 55 comments.
really? Any questions or?
Let me see. Stacy Johnson Emmons says, going out in nature can help reset and heal you and help you get in touch with the real you.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. You don't know who you really are until you go out into the quiet and listen to your own mind or your own heart, whichever way you want to see it, talking to you. If you are like some people, you're running down the road, you got the radio turned down loud, you get home, you turn the TV on loud, you're drowning out your own soul, basically. So yes, I agree 100%.
Leon Drew says, going out in nature, what is it? He says, do you think that this will be a multi-generational shift?
Yes, I do. If, we live the length of time that we live, yeah, probably. But we are at the cusp. We're at the tipping point right now. We will do most of the work, the hardest part of the work that will have to be done. And I'm not saying it's hard. I'm just saying that we are the ones who are leading the charge, basically. So, but it will take, yeah.
Bugle sounds.
Yes, it will take several generations, I'm sure. And I've thought about it too, where I'd like to see this whole thing take place in my lifetime. And I'm in my late 50s, but I'm not sure I'm going to see the end of it, but who knows? I mean, maybe with the fifth dimensional timelines, we'll all live longer because there will be no diseases like there are now. I mean, you want to talk about what life will be like on New Earth? You'll find out that there are a lot of cures for all these diseases that we've been suffering with and dying from all these years. There are simple cures. So that burns me up more than anything.
Leon Drew says, so what are your thoughts on the origin of Sasquatch?
The origin of Sasquatch, I really believe Sasquatch came here from someplace else or is a hybrid of a creature. I use the word creature. I don't really like that word, but a being that came here from someplace else, possibly genetically manipulated into being or something like that. I can't say for sure, but they do have human DNA and they are human and they have their level of spirituality is human, honestly, and that says a lot for them. I think they're very high vibrational beings.
Yeah.
And I think that they came from somewhere else, even if they've been here for many, many thousands of years, that doesn't mean they didn't come from someplace else.
Sure.
And like I said, they could have been created or, they could have been created somewhere else. Who knows? But I don't think that they are any ancestor of Gigantopithecus or anything like that. I don't think they have any history on this planet as they haven't evolved into what they are on this planet. And let's be real here. If something evolves on the planet, it's lived here for a long time. But I mean, if we we are here and we can't really trace our history back. Evolution, we got to rethink evolution. I don't think we're related to, Homo erectus or any humans. I think that we came from someplace else too,
To
basically.
me, their teachings and their energy and whatever, they're fifth dimensional.
Yes.
Neil Bauman. First, he said he loves this talk. He loves you. As a guest. He has another question down here. Yeah, he says.
Me too.
Has she
I love
had
you too.
Has she had any ET contact?
I wish I had. No, not to my knowledge. I will say this: I've had hauntings. I've had hauntings in my house that I wondered if they were possibly something else. And that's another day's conversation, where I'm not entirely sure ghosts are always ghosts. I know that some ghosts we actually create, like in the form of thought forms. Like ghost activity is more prevalent if we give energy to it. But also, I think that we've got little ETs running around, watching us, observing us, hiding around and skulking in, all these places that might possibly be what they call haunted. And I've always wondered, I had a haunting that happened to me many, many years ago, and it really wanted me to know that it was in my house. And it was knocking books off my shelf, and it would set pictures I had pictures on top of a piano, and it would take those pictures and set them face down on the floor whenever I'd leave the room, and I'd come in and find the pictures on the floor. I mean, stuff that it wasn't just knocked off, it was placed. But yeah, they knocked a heavy book off of my upper shelf in I had a reading room.
Can I ask you something? Some of these hauntings or whatever, they seem to be like they're actually doing things like with independent thought or whatever. And some of them seem to be like they're in a loop of repeating things or whatever. Have you experienced that?
But sometimes that's when I would think maybe it's a haunting, that subject.
You know what I mean, though? They're seen doing the same thing, walking down a stair or walking on a road. Things that seem to be like in a loop that is repeated over and over again.
That's when I think of them more as a haunting or something like that. And haunting is a broad term too. I mean, we'd probably have to discuss our definition of hauntings. But when they don't do those things, that's when I wonder if it might be ET activity or something. That's when I start to wonder, I mean.
So what is that loop about? Just an energy signature that stayed there or something? Or what, you know what I mean?
I get in trouble when I say this, but a lot of those things are thought forms. People give energy to certain things, and it just keeps repeating like that because people believe in it so much, especially famous ghosts. Have you ever noticed famous ghosts just keep going on and on and on? And they keep repeating and repeating and repeating. And I just kind of feel like it's more thought forms, like people have created that with their energy by giving energy to it. People don't realize how powerful. You don't realize how powerful you are. You can create these things. I had a guy talk to me about the house that I live in now. I hadn't lived in it very long. And I talked to the guy who used to live in it. And he said, that house is haunted, right? And I'm like, well, I wondered, there was things going on. I hear footsteps out in the hallway and everything. And when I get home and I'm up here in my bedroom and I'm just trying to read, I heard more noises than I would normally hear. And I think it was just because I had that in the back of my mind, and I was just giving energy to it. And, I don't want to invalidate anyone's experience of a haunting, because there are things that happen that are, pretty horrifying. But some things, like you say, like the repetition and things like that, where they just do a loop. sometimes I wonder if that isn't just a thought form.
Do you
type
think
of-
that those people are actually stuck
Wait a
in that
minute,
loop, or have they
Leon,
moved
who's
on?
got
Have they
something?
moved on from that loop? But
Go
is the
ahead.
actual, you know what I mean?
I really have trouble believing that they don't know where they're supposed to go when they die. I mean, I've talked to people who've had near-death experiences, and they talk about there was plenty of information on where they needed to go. So, I mean, you know, that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
And there are many of those out there, but that's just my opinion. I just don't feel that they're that confused. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, it's just my view of it that, you know, and like I say, I get in trouble for having that opinion, but I think there's a little bit more to it than just, you know, dead people, whatever's left of them walking around, you know, their spirits or whatever.
I don't
Leon
believe that
Hughes
either.
got a question. He says, do you think that ghost spirits could be interdimensional beings using our energy to contact us?
Using our energy to contact us. I don't think they need to use our energy actually, but I think they are interdimensional beings sometimes. I mean, like I said, going from one dimension to the other is not that hard. I've had people tell me, oh, that can't happen because it would take too much energy. I'm like, all you have to do is switch your consciousness. That's it. That's what takes you into another dimension. So, you know, what was the question?
Oh, if the ghosts and spirits are interdimensional beings, which they could be,
They could be.
like a shadow man is an interdimensional being.
Once you wrap your mind around the idea that things can be interdimensional, it kind of opens everything up for you. It's like, oh, that explains a lot of things. It explains a lot about Bigfoot and how they could just disappear and, you know, go in and out and, you know, strange things like that. I mean, once you understand that that is possible, it really opens everything up. It's like, you know, it validates everything weird that we have to deal with in the paranormal community all the time. This idea of traveling between dimensions, you know, that means that something can pop in and pop out at any time and make you think that you've lost your mind because it was there 1 minute and the next it was gone. But there you go. I mean, so
Michael Anthony said from earlier in the talk, he said that the very rich use psychic mediums. I think that's true. There's more of that going on than they let us know. That's how they can plan all their, you know, buying stocks, and if they should get this to overthrow the government or whatever they're doing, they're using psychic mediums to tell them that it's the green light their projects.
I heard Hitler used psychic mediums. So
every king always had a fortune teller, psychic medium, somebody.
Nostradamus?
You know, a wizard. Nostradamus was one of them.
Yep. Exactly. Some kind of sage. So are there any more questions?
No, I think that got it. For some reason, I'm not seeing all of them, but there's a lot of nice comments.
I wanted to ask you something then about
Neil Bauman, when it was the last one, I think.
Do you think it's directly because of the internet and there's more information out there now, or do you believe that there is a veil thinning and that's why we are seeing some of these interdimensional?
There definitely is a veil thinning, but the internet has opened everything up. You can't hide anything anymore. If something happens on the other side of the world, you know about it within seconds. If somebody, you know, sends you the video.
Right.
So they can't hide anything anymore. That's the problem with, you know, people trying to do bad things to us now. People are catching them in the act and putting it on the internet. So they can't get away with it anymore. So it was, you know, the internet was great for them, but also bad for them.
Because people have been experiencing these kind of things all throughout history, but you do think that there's more of it today, even taking the internet part out of it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I gotta plug you in here. My phone's gonna die on me.
So what you wrote some notes. What was on your mind that you really wanted to talk about?
Basically, we've covered most of it. What I want people to understand is that there's nothing to be afraid of. And like I said, if you want to help fight this war that we are definitely in, raise your vibration and just refuse to accept everything that's being told to you. Don't turn on the news and believe everything that you're hearing, and make your own discernments about things. Use your own intuition. You were given that gift for a reason. And we've been taught not to use it, which is all the more reason why we should use it. Anything they tell us not to do, we should do it, because it's just about everything they've told us is the opposite of the truth. I mean, it's almost consistent in that way.
Yes.
So we have to learn to kind of flip everything around and think about it. I mean, I'm not saying that you should believe everything in that way, but I'm saying think about it. Just, that's all. Just think about it. You know, just really look at things and think about what's going on and ask yourself if that feels right to you.
Yeah.
We all have instincts, and that's intuition. Not all of us have developed that, but it can be developed over time. It can be developed over time. I am living proof. I didn't have any of those skills. I was an empath, period. But over time, the sensitivity from being an empath gave me, it opened a door for me to start hearing things. And everybody is capable of this to a certain point. You don't have to be an empath. Everyone has instincts and intuition. And, you know, as well as I do, you have at some point in time felt that something was wrong, and it was. So that is your intuition at work. It's simple, and just use it. Make your own discernments. Don't let them tell you what to think. They do it all the time, and we need to stop letting them. And I'm saying the same thing about me, what I'm saying today. You know, maybe it sounds crazy to a lot of people, what I've said today. So make your own discernments. You know, that's your privilege. But all I ask is just think about it. Just think about everything and really, really use the gifts that you've been given, because they're there for a reason. And there are those beings out there that have tried to take that away from you. Don't let them do that to you. Take back your birthright. It's yours. It was always yours all along.
Yeah. What do you think of when people say, and I've heard this all the time, you hear this all the time from people like us or whatever, like, we've already won. What does that mean to you? And do you agree? And do you believe that?
The worst part is over. They are pretty much on the run. The vibration of the planet is rising more quickly. As we enter into the fifth dimension, the vibration naturally rises into a more open energy. So that's very helpful. That helps people to kind of see what's going on. As people start to see more of what's going on, that raises the vibration even more. And it just, there's a momentum building, I think. And you can kind of see it. You can kind of see things slowly shifting. You know, I still hear people saying, you know, the world's going to hell in a handbasket. But it really, if you really know how to look at it, it looks a whole lot better than it did just a couple of years ago. So
are we food for them? Energetic food? Do they feed off our fear? Is that true?
That is true. Yes. That's why they like so much of it around. They throw that fear everywhere, sprinkle that everywhere. Yes. That's why there's so much fear. They feed off of your fear. And I dare say they may feed off some bodies too. So, I mean, what they do to us is horrible. It's reprehensible. It's unconscionable, and it needs to stop. And the way it stops is we don't let it happen anymore. Period. We don't accept what we're being told, what we're being fed, what we're being given from this, which is nothing. We're given turmoil and drama and death and destruction and war, and all this stuff is not the way it was supposed to be here. We're supposed to be able to live happy lives. And
What was
that's
that
been
movie?
taken
What
away
was
from
it?
us.
Sorry, Dorraine.
Okay,
What was that
go
movie,
ahead.
Vendetta, for? It was a futuristic movie, Vendetta something, about a futuristic world where, and this dictator came on and gave you all these speeches or whatever to all the people. Vendetta for.
I can't remember the movie, but sorry. But there's been a
Anyway,
lot of movies.
that's basically what's happening when you watch the news.
There's been a lot of movies that really resonate right now with what's been happening.
I'm going to see if I can find that.
Yeah, they've been telling us with movies, sometimes TV too, but with movies, they've been telling us all along what their plan was. Watch those movies again if you like and see what they were trying to do. And it's not just entertainment, it's a message. They're trying to get your permission. So, got a problem? Hello?
Hello,
Still
Brian.
there?
Brian's looking around.
The movie's called V for Vendetta.
Oh, okay. I don't remember that movie, but
Well, that's really what's
It's about a
basically what's going
vaccine.
on.
It's about a vaccine.
oh boy, we don't want to go there, do
Is
we?
it about a vaccine?
Yeah, it's about a pandemic.
Yeah, and it's also about some dictator telling everybody what's what and how they're supposed to think and how things are, and it's virtually mirroring what's going on now. So that's
Well, isn't that interesting that popped into your head?
V
Wonder where
for
that came
Vendetta. Two people said it in the comments.
well, the reason it popped into my head is that people got to realize if you don't want to buy into the propaganda and raise your vibration, literally get out into the woods, get out into nature, discover yourself, and turn the goddamn news off,
Mhm.
because that is a propaganda machine.
Well, all TV, I hate to say it, but people just need to get rid of their TV, honestly, because they slip propaganda in everywhere now. It's really bad. But
Leon Drew says, so with this transition, what do you think the government world structure will end up being? That's a good question.
end up being ultimately, you mean, like, you know, when it's all said and done, I think government will be minimal, because I don't think there will be as much of a need for it, and people will understand how destructive government is. But that might be a pipe dream on my part, but I don't think so. As people begin to ascend, dare I use that word, the need for government is going to be less, and people, especially of this generation, are going to be really leery of government in many, many ways. I mean, after all this is over, everybody's going to be really suspicious of government, I think. But I think that there's going to be less of a need for so much of it, and people are going to really start seeing that. But I think the structure of the way laws are made will be something like the Magna Carta or the Constitution of the United States, allowing people the freedoms to decide for themselves. And basically the way the Constitution was originally written.
Isn't it funny that the First Nations people live so similar to the Sasquatch, and they were much more spiritually evolved and connected with nature or whatever? I can see us going back to something like that, at least in the way we think.
Gradually it will shift a lot in that way, I think. When people become more spiritual. I think that, yeah, it will evolve in that way, but I don't see that happening really soon, but it will go in that direction. And it will be a less forced kind of way that it will happen. Right now, they're trying to force things down our throat, and you know, they can't legislate people into into being spiritual or moral or anything like that. They just can't legislate that. And that's what they're trying to do. And that puts everybody in the same category, which not everyone is in the same category. You have to allow personal freedoms for people to decide how they're going to decide for themselves, if that makes any sense. You have
Absolutely.
to have laws that give people the freedom to make their own choices in doing the right thing. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, so,
I heard something really, really positive today. In Canada here, there's a what do they call it? A caravan of what they expect to be 150,000 truckers are marching on Ottawa, not just because of their own issues, but because of what's going on in today, and they're sick of it. 150,000 trucks they
Big
expect, or
rigs.
more. What?
Big rigs. Yeah.
Yep. Marching on Ottawa and saying this is nonsense.
That's what it's going to take. That's what it's going to take everywhere in order to get them to understand that we are not taking it anymore. We ain't going to take it anymore.
There's one
just
country,
not.
I think it was Kazakhstan or something like that. They've just collapsed their whole government. The government had to like flee the country. Yeah,
Okay,
that just happened
there
just
you
recently.
go.
We don't hear about it, but that kind of stuff is happening out there. It only
Yeah.
take 2 or 3 countries like that, and that would be it. You know what I mean? Because the people fed
So,
up.
Yeah.
Everybody can do their part just by a little something to start with. Just don't comply in some way, you know?
Meditate, folks.
Absolutely. Getting that heart,
Meditate.
get that
Raise your
heart rate.
vibration. It's the best thing you can do for yourself. Honestly, if people understood that you can give up a lot of your anxiety meds if you learn to meditate, do it. It's well worth it. You will feel great. No pills required, but it raises your vibration. It helps depression, it helps anxiety, it helps. Actually, if your vibration is high enough, it can keep you from getting sick. It can keep you from getting certain diseases, the flu and other things, I mean.
That was one of the comments we had. This guy, Leon Drew, was talking about
Hi, Leon.
your thoughts can make you sick, and I agree with that 100%. I've been looking at that for years.
I look to the future to have clinics, health clinics, where if you have a physical problem, you will go into this clinic and learn how to fix your mind in order to fix your disease. That's what I look to happen, because most diseases they're emotionally based. They're caused by people's emotions.
Yes.
If you've ever gotten a stomach ache from being upset about something, you understand what I'm talking about. Emotions will cause you physical pain, physical harm.
And the Sasquatch people are healers. I've witnessed it. I've witnessed it firsthand myself. And they're teaching some of us to be healers and to heal ourselves. I mean, that's one of the things they've been introducing me to. So we are so powerful. So
they're teaching us mind speak and invisibility.
Yeah.
We don't understand how powerful we really are, and they've tried to keep us from knowing that. And I think people really need to look into this, because it is your birthright, and you really need to understand that they have tried to keep you weak and scared and confused, and they've done a pretty good job of it. And just stop doing it. Understand that you are powerful. You control everything around you.
We have fear. Yeah. We have fear of them, but in essence, we are more powerful than them.
We are more powerful than they are, and they know that about us.
They're not in, they don't have hearts. That's the problem. They don't access their heart at all. If you
They
soon
don't
as
have
you
any
access
access
your
to
heart,
their
then there's nature and God and angels and all this kind of stuff happening. And, you know,
Your
it's a whole
heart is
different
actually
story.
where it all comes from. Your heart is your psychic center. Your heart is where your soul energy comes from. I mean, your heart is a big deal,
Big deal.
And
really.
if anybody wants to connect to Sasquatch in a real way, that's how you do it.
Yes.
Through your heart.
Yes.
They-
I was actually, in the beginning, I was using heart chakra frequencies before I went out into the woods. I was putting headphones on and using heart chakra frequencies in order to make sure the heart chakra was activated before I went out into the woods.
Mhm.
Makes a big difference. And, you know, people think that sounds so hokey and new agey,
No.
but
No,
it really is the truth. Your heart can do a lot if you do something from your heart. I mean, think about when you speak from your heart, how people respond to that and everything. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a magical
they
thing.
notice the difference in the authenticity,
Yes,
and it really affects them.
because authenticity is actually enlightenment.
Yeah.
Discovering who you really are, is actually enlightenment.
Yeah.
So, how long have we been on here?
Well, we go on forever, but why do you have to go?
No, I'm okay for a little while, but I've been holding the phone up for a long time. So I had planned on doing this on my laptop.
Well, I mean,
so
when you get tired, you can let us know. But
I
you know,
will.
this would be one of the shorter shows we ever had.
Well, I guess we can continue this again another day, but I'm trying to think of what else.
Well, I've got a few questions I wanted to ask you.
Okay, all right.
Tell us about some of your personal experiences with the Sasquatch people.
Okay. Some of them are humorous.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's hear them. Or, you know,
Okay. Here's the thing. I was doing research in an area outside my town that's near the river, near a river. I'm not going to tell you where any of this is. I was
no.
doing research in an area out there, and I was having good success. I was connecting with them. They were leaving me the gifts like I was talking about. And I thought I would attempt to try and communicate with them telepathically. That's what mind speak is, right? Telepathy.
Well, not that's part of it. There's other ways. There's other things like thought placement, leading you somewhere to find. I mean, there are other. That's the classic example of it.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought I would try to do that, and I thought I heard them tell me. I asked them, what was it I asked them? I have trouble recalling some of the stuff. Anyway, I asked them what they wanted to tell me. That was what it was. Was there anything that they wanted to tell me? And I just sat there and I was really quiet for a little while. And I heard in my head, "Can you hear me now? We are hurting." And I didn't know what that meant, of course. I was a little disturbed by it. But I asked them again, "Okay, what else do you want to tell me?" And they said, "We won't be here for very long." And I think that there was something else in the woods that was driving them out. I wasn't sure what it was, but the energy was getting kind of different in that area. Well, I found them eventually in my city park that's near my house. They were leaving me signs in the park that they were there.
That's one thing people don't understand. They can leave signs right at your house.
Yeah, and they can be anywhere.
Yeah.
They can be anywhere.
Yes.
And I would sit in this park. It's near my home, and I sit in this park quite a lot. And there was one day I was sitting in my car and I felt like there was something behind me. There was a big patch of woods behind me. You got to understand this park. It's very wooded, forested park. It's really nice. So anyway, I was sitting in my car and I got the feeling there was something going on behind me. And I got out and I took a couple pictures of the woods there. Didn't see anything, of course. You never see anything until later. But
Yes.
anyway, something was throwing acorns at my car. Like they kept throwing acorns at my car, like they were trying to let me know that they were there. And I just had to laugh. It was so funny because I'm like, well, do you guys want something? Or are you just trying to let me know? Because every once in a while I'll take them food. Like I'll take a bunch of junk food, like some powdered donuts and some bananas and some peanut butter, and all this other stuff. And I just wondered if they were asking me, hey, we need something to eat here. But anyway, they just kept throwing acorns at the car. And it was just humorous the way they did it. And I wanted a bucket or something to put outside my car door and see if they could throw them in the bucket from that distance. But just things like that. And they have basically been in my yard. I know they've been in my yard.
Sure.
And my neighbors have dogs, and 2 o'clock in the morning, I'll hear them whistling at each other. You ever heard two hunters who kind of whistle to each other? Like they're not trying to talk, they're trying to whistle to each other to signal or something. Yeah. And I'll hear that going on out there. And I know it's not people because I've already checked that part, but I really think they're hanging around sometimes. I haven't had a sense of them for a while now, but I think they're hanging around sometimes. And I wonder if they're looking after me a little bit. I really do.
I believe that. I mean, I've had them come and leave their glyphs right in my yard, like many, many times. I had one appear in my room out of a cloud of smoke. So, I mean, they're definitely watching out for us.
Yeah. So
hanging out. How about shape-shifting? Have you ever suspected that they were shape-shifted into like a raven or a bird or some other kind of animal? I've had a lot of experience with that. How about you?
I have not had that experience, although sometimes those things can happen and you don't really realize what's going on. Like I'll have animals appear to me and just kind of hang out there and stare at me. Like crows will just come up and just look at me and be barking at me like they're trying to tell me something.
Yeah.
And I'll kind of wonder about that. You know what I'm saying? And the deer will come closer to me than they normally would and just kind of stare at me like they're trying to tell me something.
Just something a little unusual. Yeah.
Yeah. I just kind of wonder about those kind of things, especially when I know the Sasquatch are around. Like I can feel them hanging around or something, but I can't see anything.
Well, I think sometimes that's a way that, even though they could watch you cloak, sometimes that's a way for them to get really close to you without you,
Yeah. And
hey, there's a Sasquatch there.
Yeah. I felt them awfully close to me, like breathing down my neck, kind of. I'm like, okay, that's a little bit too much.
Invisible, right? They were invisible.
As far as I could tell, define invisible. I don't really, invisible to some people is like you can see right.
They're breathing in your hair is going like this and you can't see them. That I would call that invisible.
Yeah.
I got a good question. I got a really good generic question for you. I'm in a lot of groups and there's always a lot of new people in there. And the new people really want to know, how do you get in touch with the Sasquatch? How do you become friends with the Sasquatch? Or, they want to know that kind of what can they do?
First, you have to know if there's evidence of them around. That's a good clue. Like if you see your forest has been manipulated, like little structures and things like broken trees and things like that. That's a good place to start. And then basically go into those woods. And I always recommend, take your phone with you. I know you will anyway, but take your phone with you and just keep it with you. Don't aim it around at all for a while. Don't try to take video of the area. Don't try to take pictures. Don't try to put up game cams. Go out into the area and get in touch with your senses, first of all. Do you think that they are there close to you? Learn to use your intuition because it is a very intuitive art form. getting in contact with them. And if you are pure of heart, they will appear. Not the way you want them to, but you'll know they're there. They will leave you signs that they are there, and they will connect with you because they want to. I think they are a type of human, and I think they do want to connect with us. They are just as curious about us as we are about them, but you have to go in quietly and gently and be patient, and it will happen if they're there. And I mean, Brian, would you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I wanted to add one thing. I would just say, go in there with an open heart, no agenda, other than to connect and just say, hi, I'm Brian, and I am open to meeting you. And just say it from your heart and sincerely. Just,
and
I am open to meeting you.
Right. Don't get frustrated. Don't expect anything, because they do it on their time, not yours.
Yeah. And just sit there, visit the woods, sit there and just be open, heartfelt, and just wait for something to happen. But tell them that you are open to it.
Yes. Go out there to enjoy the time in the woods. Don't go out there to find Bigfoot. You won't find them. You won't find them if you're looking for them.
No, they don't.
That's your ego.
They're not trained SEALs or whatever. They I've gone out there on days when there's not been another soul around for 3 or 4 hours and nothing happened. It's all in their schedule when they want to do it. And that's just how it is.
And
but
when they start doing it, that you will be amazed at what you will find. You will be amazed at the experience that you have.
Yeah.
But you can't go in there with your ego. No ego. Egos are not allowed. It won't work.
And if you're setting up game cams, they're not going to come around you either.
They know what game cams are, people. They're not going to hang out around them. They're not going to do a little happy dance for you in front of them. They're not going to do it.
Yeah, because they don't want to connect with you in that way. They want to connect with you to teach you, to like what's happening with us. They want to introduce us to our true nature or whatever. They want an open heart and they want no agenda. So you just go in there and say, hi, I'm so-and-so, and let's meet. And
they don't come to you with an agenda, so you shouldn't come to them with an agenda.
No. I mean, they got important work to do. They're not fooling around. They're not just.
I got something to say about the psychic people out there. There are very sensitive people out there. There's very intuitive women and men out there. And don't be surprised if the Sasquatch does not show themselves to you. If you're psychic and you're receiving them on an energetic level, they would rather have a relationship with you invisibly and energetically than to even have mind speak. Because if they can talk to you just from energy alone, they would prefer that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yep. And when I was just I just wanted to close out that thing about the shape shifting or whatever. Like because I feel that if I'm representing them, I'm not going to hold anything back, no matter how crazy it sounds. I have literally seen them and experienced them in human form. And I've had that confirmed by another friend that was just like undeniable. So they are capable of assuming any form they want.
Well, it may have happened to me and it didn't sink in. And I feel like if that was what was happening, it would have sunk in somehow. But I'm not saying it doesn't happen, because I'm pretty much a believer in just about everything at this point, because every time I have not believed in something, I've been proven wrong in some way. So
I guarantee you that's how it is. But I also say that there's maybe 20 or 30 ways that they connect with us, a different assortment of things, and everybody has their own little unique collection of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean anybody's experiences are any better or more valid or anything anybody else's. It's just they work with you in the way that they feel is good to work with you. I mean, you've obviously got a really advanced knowing that they've given you. We're so much on the same page with everything you said, but they give me some things they don't give you, and vice versa. It's a mixed bag.
Well, they're people and they're all different, just like we are all different. So You sure they
Speaking
have
about that,
different
there's a question about that, and that is Leon again. I think you should.
Hi, Leon.
Baby, thank you for your question, sir. Leon. Oh, sorry, I'm getting off on a tangent.
Leon's a friend of mine, so
Oh, is he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why.
His question is, what do you think of the possibilities of being different types of Sasquatch?
oh, definitely. I know there are different types. And I've often wondered if they are different in the East, the eastern part of the United States, than they are in the West. There seems to be, they seem to, they're pretty plentiful here. I mean, they seem to be everywhere here. And the whole cloaking thing seems to be more prevalent here. And I just wonder if it's because there's, like where I live, there's no wilderness here. I mean, there's little strips of forest in between the cornfields where I live, and the cloaking would have to be more prevalent. They would have to move around in stealth mode, whatever it is that they use, in order to get around here and have people not see them. Whereas in the West, I wonder if it's a little bit easier to get pictures of them in their full physical form because they don't cloak as much. They don't have to worry about being around people. And I wonder if they live in these areas like in my town because they like to be around people. And the ones who live in the wilderness in the West don't like people so much and want to be away from them. But I think that they're like people are different regionally. I think they are different regionally. And
my guys are really super friendly. So, but I do understand your points, and I do agree.
mhm.
You know, there's more places to hide out here, obviously, but they definitely cloak out here too.
Yeah,
And as a matter of
I
fact,
know they do.
every picture that I've gotten of them, and I've never taken a picture on purpose, I've invited them to be in pictures, and sometimes they show up. Every single picture that I've gotten of them is in some kind of cloaked state.
Mhm.
But you can make them out. But
That's right. So it's a skill they have, which reinforces my idea that they came from someplace else. So, or they have developed their abilities far beyond, what we have. I mean, obviously beyond what we have,
but I've also heard, and I believe this too, I've heard this a few times, that the Sasquatch would say that we don't have any abilities that you did not once have. And that's why so many of us that are connecting with the Sasquatch are developing these abilities, because we always had them. We just forgot, right?
And that's another aspect of my point about when Patty walked down that riverbank, everything changed. I mean, we are being awakened to our own abilities, and that was just the beginning of it. We all saw her. She showed herself in the physical, and I have heard from more than one source that the other Sasquatches did not want her to do that, and she did it anyway. And I'm of the school that everything happens because it's supposed to happen. And
Why
I think that
do
was
you
the
think she
moment.
did it anyway? Did she see a bigger picture scenario?
I think that, okay, have you ever been felt an inclination to do something? Don't know necessarily why, but you just feel the need to just do it. And it's kind of like divinely guided. You find out later that you were supposed to do that. It set a course of events in place that was right, was what was supposed to happen. I think that's one of those events where she might have just, nobody coerced her into doing it. She just felt the inclination to do it, and she just did it.
Well, I think
And
with my clan, they're so, and I'm not saying they're any more evolved than any others, but my experience with them, they're extremely evolved, and they time doesn't even exist for them. Like, they have the past, the present, and the future they can access right now. So I would think that if there was something that significant, I think that they would, or they could plan it out like that, because they're teachers. that they'll do it for a point. So it could be both ways,
Yes.
you know?
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, that's the reason why I said that event was so significant, is because it set a course of events in motion that, I mean, can you imagine what we'd be doing now if we didn't have Sasquatch? What would we be doing with our afternoon today if we weren't talking about this subject? I
Well,
mean, it's really given us, I mean, it's a great gift, honestly.
yeah.
Really
I
is.
was born with a knowing I was different than everything, you know, that then I just felt I was different even when I was a kid. So we were brought here, like you say, for a reason. But
Mhm.
Sasquatch opened that door wide open. Oh, and I'm getting just blasted with. They opened that door right up for me. Without Sasquatch, we would not be talking like this. We would not be doing our work. They are initiating, assisting us in what we're doing. They are right behind us, like with love, with caring, with their intentions. They are right there, walking hand in hand with us, getting this message out about who we are. See,
I
when you
think they've
go and
been
look
with
for
us for the
Sasquatch,
long.
the true thing about Sasquatch is if you go and look and investigate Sasquatch, eventually people who have the open heart and are getting the true connection with them, they find out that they're really finding out about themselves.
Mhm.
Sasquatch will tell you about themselves and things about themselves, and you'll get to know some of the stuff they do, how they live, their habits or whatever. But really what you find out is about your true self. And that's what they want to do.
Yeah, and I think that's why it happens for a reason. I think it's divinely guided, you know, whatever anybody thinks about that. If you come into contact with these beings, it's because you are supposed to and you are ready for that.
Yeah.
So,
How many people have said, how many times have you heard? And I know you've been with different organizations and you fell apart from them because your mind was more open in some cases, but and maybe in those situations you hadn't heard this much, but in your experience, how many times have you heard of a person having an experience with Sasquatch when they were a kid, and then 20 years later or whatever, suddenly they're connected with them, they're having their minds open, they're teaching them. There's some big connection to that. I think they're watching us right from day one.
well, and I always tell people that really Sasquatch was in my psyche from the time I was very small, because, and this is a different way for it to exist alongside of me, but you know, my father telling me, putting me to bed at night, you know, and telling me if I get up, the boogeyman's going to get me. And the picture I had in my mind when he was talking about the boogeyman was Sasquatch. And that was before I'd ever seen one. You know, I was 3, 4 years old, and I had this picture of a Bigfoot in my mind when he said that.
Yeah.
And I've always wondered kind of where that came from. You know, did I just make that up in my head, or was there something more? Was there some kind of soul energy signature thing going on? Or, you know, I mean, I'm of the school now where everything means more than what we think it means. You know, I've come to that point where there's a bigger meaning to just about everything. And I'm wondering if that's not one of those things too, you know, just.
So you were in like
I agree.
organizations like the BFRO and everything for a while, right?
No, not me.
Well, no,
No.
but okay, but of similar mindset where they just thought they were gorillas
Yeah.
walking through the forest, right?
Was looking for an undiscovered ape. Yes.
Right. Okay. So was there a catalyst, or did something happen to you? Was there an incident that got you considering, wait a minute, they're way more than that? Was it gradual, or was there a dramatic thing that happened where you kind of thought that's not the whole story?
When I was writing about Bigfoot, you know, for the Crypto Crew for those years, people started to trust me on this subject. They read some of the things I wrote, and I tried to be fairly insightful about what I was writing. I tried to be open-minded about it. And I think people gravitated toward that, and, you know, being able to talk to me about anything. I mean, anything. Way back in the day when, you know, it was just considered plain weird to talk about cloaking or zapping or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I think that my mind really changed when I had people contacting me and telling me, oh, you can't tell anybody this, but I got to tell somebody what happened to me. And the thing was, one person told me, and I'm like, okay, maybe he's crazy or something like that. But I don't think he's crazy, but I think he thinks he saw something that maybe he didn't really see. But anyway, that was my mindset for a little while, but then it started happening more often. And people from different areas of the country and different areas of the world were telling me very similar things.
Mhm.
Very similar stories about all these kind of magical things that were happening. And I had to start listening a little bit more closely. And my being the type of person I am, where I do think of things a little bit differently, I have a different angle on everything. I was pretty much able to decide for myself just from those things, not my own experiences, but just from those things, that there was a little bit more to it than what I thought or what the popular narrative was. And I knew at that point that I was going to have to open up my mind and start to do some research about how these things could be possible. And that's the thing. Sometimes we have to investigate how something could be possible rather than just saying, oh, that can't happen. That's not possible.
Yeah.
We can't keep saying that. We have to ask ourselves, how could this possibly happen? All of these people are telling me the same things. They've seen these things go invisible. They've seen them cloak. They felt them around but couldn't see them. All these things. They were all these people telling me these things. It was almost like bombardment, where it was a lot of it happening at once. Like there was an evolution that was taking place.
Mm-hmm.
That people were really starting to connect with them on a different level and starting to see things, which may go back to that fifth dimensional seeing thing again. But that's what really turned it around for me. It wasn't any experience that I personally had, because I was not really sure what kind of a researcher I wanted to be. I was going out in the woods, taking pictures, trying, find prints and things like that. But it wasn't really much beyond that. I was just, trying to get the money shot, I guess, which nobody ever gets. But
Yeah.
it was other people's experiences that really got me. And these were people that I really trusted. I didn't really think they were crazy. I thought something was happening to them and it had a spiritual undertone to it. And they were all having these types of experiences. And you talk to somebody in Australia who's having the same type of experience as someone here, and
Yes.
I'm like, there's something to that. You can't just ignore things like that. You have to look at them. And I would try to talk to people about them and they're like, oh, that's just crazy. That's just crazy. But you have to talk to these people and really know them. A lot of these people I really, really trusted. I knew they weren't crazy.
Yeah.
So I had to start listening to them, and I had to shift my mind around and start looking for ways that this could be possible. And that's when I started writing articles about how, let's just suppose that they do this. How could that happen? And I started investigating it that way, and it's just kind of evolved. And I finally went out in the woods and had my own experiences, but it just took me a while. I don't know why. It wasn't time, I guess, but.
Did you want to share maybe one of the, without giving the person's name away, one of the fantastic things you heard early on that was really amazing? One of the encounters or one of the experiences shared?
It wasn't so much one great experience. It was more just
The cumulative, yeah.
multiples of the same kind of thing. Mostly the story was, it was there. I know it was there, but then it disappeared. Or I saw an outline of something and I saw it move. And I know there was something there, but I can't prove anything. I mean, it was just the same kind of story. I mean,
Right.
it was just like the things that you see all the time now, or experience all the time, I should say. Now that we know what it is, we know they're there, we can't necessarily see them. And that was just a new thing back then. You know, people started talking about it and they would talk to me about it and say, but you can't tell anybody about it. So, but it was mostly just small experiences. I just saw this thing disappear. I swear to God, it disappeared into thin air, or it levitated, or, you know, something like that.
Or it moved
And
faster than a human.
yeah, I mean, and some of the things were, you know, pretty weird, but then somebody else would tell me across the country, on the other side of the country, would say something similar, you know.
Yeah.
And it just seemed like all this stuff was coming up around the same time. It's like I said, there was an evolution going on. More people were having more experiences.
Well, that's by design. It was time for that understanding to come to light, right?
Right. And this is why I formed this theory that there's an evolution at play here. And Sasquatch is a part of that.
Yeah, that's
And
one of the
I
big
really
things of
agree.
that's what we try to do in the Pork and Bean Show, is that we discuss all these things because we want people to feel verified and realize that their experiences are valid and they're actually real, right?
Well, and that's what the platform that I was trying to give people at the time was, okay, people are having these strange things happen. They need to talk to somebody. And they were coming to me, I think, because they trusted me with it. And at that time, there weren't a lot of people that could be trusted with it because there were so many people walking around saying, well, these people are just nuts. And there's still a lot of those, you know. But they needed some way to talk about it, because you don't need people gaslighting you all the time about what you've seen, what you've experienced.
Ain't
These are
that the
not
truth?
crazy people. Yeah, I mean, gaslighting is just a really mean thing to do. And we need to stop doing that about people's
Why are people so
experiences,
quick to say, "Oh, that's crazy," or "You're crazy," or "They're, you know, you're smoking
because
stuff"?
they're
Why do it's like that?
indoctrinated.
It's like a knee-jerk reaction.
Because they're indoctrinated and they're scared. They're scared
Oh,
that what this person saw might actually be real and they might have to deal with it too.
Well, let me put it another way. If you're going out and in the field for 30 years and you figure that you're an expert, but you're not going in with the right heart set, the connecting set or whatever, and then somebody tells you this, you get your dander up and your ego and say, oh, that can't be happening. I've been at this for 30 years. But they've been
That's
doing it
another
wrong
thing.
for 30 years. So that's
Yeah.
why they get up. That's why they get irate and up in arms.
Yeah, and I had to laugh when you said the word expert. That
Well, I was at a conference one time. Okay. Like, how ludicrous is this? I don't really like those conferences because they're usually all revolve around,
I don't go to them.
evidence or whatever. But I was at this one time, and this guy, and he was well known. He's well known. Everybody knows him. I don't like mentioning names. I'm not going to criticize anybody.
It's all right.
But basically, this guy is at it for 30 years. He considers himself to be an expert. And he says, we had all this activity going on, and it was just amazing, all these reports and all this activity. And then we went in and put up game cams and everything stopped. And he could not figure out why everything stopped. And he's been doing it for 30 years. I mean, that's an expert for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you've been doing this for 30 years and you haven't heard that they don't like game cams or whatever, what the hell are you doing? Going for a hike?
If you've been putting up game cams for years and you're not getting anything, then duh, you need to stop doing it and do something else. I mean,
he was even worse than that. He couldn't figure out why the activity stopped. They hadn't had the game cams up. The activity stopped when they put them up, but he couldn't put one and one together and come up with two.
This is why I talk about critical thinking. People think they know what critical thinking is, but you got to be able to pick the situation apart. And you got to be able to tell yourself that you might be wrong. you have to be able to say to yourself, okay, I was wrong about this. Maybe I need to do something different. I mean, and a lot of people can't do that. To be wrong is like the worst thing in the world to some people.
Yeah.
So if you can't tell yourself that you were wrong about this and you need to do something different, then you're not capable of thinking it through. You're not capable of critical thinking, in my opinion.
Hey, look at Beans. He looks like a ghost. Oh, you did when you were back
you
there?
know what? You know what Tom
Holding
Cantrell
head.
does? Tom Cantrell takes a like a folding chair and sits it in a place where with his back to some bushes, and he's in the open, and he has a bucket of chicken, and he has his little thing where he can, little screen where you can read stories, right? So he just sits there and reads stories, which is I've heard this before, which is mind speak. In other words, when you read a story in your mind, it projects. So basically, he's telling them stories with his mind,
Okay.
and he does this for it's always done this, and they end up coming around, and he never does anything but that, and they just know who he is, and they're friends with him, and he's had a relationship with those guys for years and years and years, and that's all he does.
He's kind of like the perfect mix between he's the perfect balance between the evidence guy, because he likes the evidence and he likes proving they exist and all that stuff, but he's also fully cognizant of the other side. He's kind of like right in the middle and just like perfectly open to both.
Yep, and
So
that's what you have to be.
He's a good friend of mine too. Yeah.
That's what you have to be.
I'll tell you what I really think of him after the show. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. He's a good friend of mine. He's actually helping me edit my book.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah.
So.
But he's open to the physical, the evidence, the length of the stride, the mid-tarsal break, the analyzing the patty film or whatever. And he's also open to the mind speak, the shape shifting, the messages they leave through glove. I mean, so
you have to.
That's how these other investigators.
The orbs and UFOs. I have a list of like about 45, 47 things that the Sasquatch and the ETs have in common. Like they can talk, they can mess with your cameras. If things go funny, then the Men in Black show up, and the federal government gets involved.
That's what I'm saying.
Helicopters, it just goes down the list, generational, like, Sasquatch and ET or follow a family from, grandparents to parents to children. So it just goes on and on and on. 50 things, almost 50 things.
Yeah, I believe it.
That those guys are doing it, that the Sasquatch are doing. How can they not be on the same team if they're doing it? Uplifting people's reality, getting people into a higher spiritual state. The Sasquatch and ETs do this, right? So.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to do something that is very out of character for me. I'm starting to feel sorry for you that you're having to hold your phone up for so long.
I might be getting a little tired.
So I'm wondering if we should just ask you one more question and then let you go. What do you think?
Okay. All right.
Does that sound good? Are you getting a little tired?
No, yeah, I am, but I'm enjoying this. So I'll.
Well, we can always have a part 2, a part 3, a part 4, whatever we want to do. But I'm going to ask you the question that we ask everybody. How has your life changed since you've been introduced to Sasquatch?
It's been amazing, really. It's almost hard to describe. It's been amazing. I mean, I could sit here and cry about it, quite honestly.
Truly, yes.
You're
allowed to. We've
I'd rather not.
One time we had 2 grown men on the show crying about it. They felt so amazing.
I would not be the person I am without them, quite honestly. And I mean, that's really it in a nutshell. I would not be who I am, and I would not understand myself the way I do without them. So, I mean, that's really the biggest thing for me. I mean, I could go on and bawl all day long, but yeah, that's it in a nutshell. I just don't think I would be the same person. Like I said, I would not be spending this afternoon talking to you guys about them. I don't know what I would be doing. Life would be really, really boring, I think, without them. I mean, it really adds color to your life for sure.
Obviously,
And
they've expanded your knowledge on the universal kind of scale, right?
they have taken me in so many directions. I mean, my head is full of this stuff. And like I said, I tried to write down notes and it was like, there is so much. I can't even begin to do this. And I was a little bit concerned about talking to you guys, but you guys have made it very easy for me to get, everything out that I wanted to say. But yeah, I mean, it's been, it's really hard for me to describe. I just sit here and bawl if I do, because when I think about them, I cry, and that's a heart chakra thing. That's, they do have an effect on me, and
Overwhelming gratitude.
definitely that. Yeah, it's just been an amazing ride. And I hope it continues, and I think it will. So
how would you suggest to other people what might happen to them if they connect with them in a heartfelt way? The same kind of thing as what you've experienced, obviously.
you will have the most profound experience of your life. And if you're not spiritual now, you could become spiritual. Because I wasn't the most spiritual person in the beginning, and they kind of made me that way. Because once you connect with that part of yourself, that's when it really starts to open up for you. Yeah. Seriously. So
get out into the woods,
get
turn
out into the
TV
woods,
off, introduce yourself to Sasquatch and say, hey, I'm open to meeting you, and here comes the energy.
Yeah, you can start in your backyard. It doesn't have to be in the woods. Start there.
Yeah, that's for sure. Woods are better, but yeah, you would be surprised at where you will find them.
Absolutely. That's just my way, but But yeah, I mean, Beans doesn't go into the woods, and he connects with them. So
well, I love the woods, and I wish I could get out there, but it's just been too cold here and too wet. So
you know what it's like when I go out into the woods and I hear, and I know sometimes they're not actually what I think I'm hearing. You hear the ravens calling, and it's just an energy and a feeling, and sometimes the ravens through the Sasquatch will answer your questions or whatever. And it's not coincidence and that kind of stuff. It's magical. It's magical.
Yeah. When other animals appear to you and stuff.
Yeah. So get out and wherever you have to be at peace. And
everything will become more clear. Everything will become more clear. It's because, we're not doing this enough. We've been cooped up too long, and we've disconnected ourselves from everything. So,
and don't feel so hopeless. You can actually do your part by it's not only for you. If you actually go about and do that, you're actually helping us all, because you're opening your consciousness, and we're all a collective consciousness. So the more people we have on board with this, the better off we're all going to be. So
absolutely, definitely. Yep.
Okay.
All right. Well,
thank you from the Pork and Beans. I'm so glad to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. And thank you for making it very easy for me.
Such a good job. And you got a lot of views and a lot of comments. I think you set the record on comments.
Thank you, Dorraine.
Right now it's at 91 comments. That is a record, isn't it?
Wow.
Can I just close the show out with my little spiel, and then we'll let you go?
Okay.
So on behalf of Pork Cunningham and Frank Oliver Baines, this has been the Pork and Beans Show, and we are so grateful to be able to present this this conversation with you and to try to maybe open some people's hearts. And we're especially grateful for today's guest, Dorraine Fisher. We appreciate you. You're part of the Pork and Beans family, and we'll have you back. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Go join the Pork and Beans Show group on Facebook, and go watch Brian's channel. We have everything all fancy dancy and a playlist and everything.
It's a fancy dancy place.
And this will be on YouTube, right?
Yeah. YouTube, I'll put it on YouTube. Yeah,
it'll be on YouTube. Okay. It'll be on the Pork and Beans Show in about 10 minutes after we sign off.
If you want to see this show, the fancy dancy version, or you want to see some of my little things that I do independent of the show, I got well over 300 videos, and you can access that at Sasquatch BC, the true story, the Pork and Beans Show, and you'll see my lovely face on there, and not as lovely as the world's handsomest man, but I try. So check it out, and thanks everybody for coming, and we're really appreciative. And once again, Dorraine, thank you so much.
Thank you.
come back when you got some juicy hot sauce.
All right, we'll do it again.
All right.
There's
Bye,
more.
everybody.
There's way more.
There's always more. Yeah, you're gonna as soon as you go, you go. I should have said.
Whoa, da, 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 da. Remember that
Yeah.
song? Remember that one?
All right, you guys. Yep.
See you guys.
Take care. Bye.
Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then.
Who cares about the clouds if we're together?
Just sing a song and bring the sunny weather. Happy trails to you till we meet again.
Some trails are happy ones,
Others are blue. It's the way you ride the trail that counts. Here's a happy one for you.
happy trails.
Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then.
Who cares about the clouds if we're together?
Just sing a song and bring the sunny weather. Happy trails to you till we meet again.
Glory is all our we worship the Son, great Spirit, born of the Mother Earth. Seek for the true white brother. We are the chosen people. Give back our sacred land. We are the four grandfathers, a destiny for man. It is written in our prophecy that we shall find the true white brother who will help us join together